Hi everyone, my guest today is Curtis Johnson from Scout Discoveries. Dear Curtis, welcome to the spotlight.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
And I have to tell everyone that I don't own any shares of this company. I'm not a shareholder, and there is a good reason for that. It's a very special company. It's still pre-IPO. That means that it is not yet listed on any stock exchanges. You cannot buy the shares. So why bother, right? And the interesting thing is that And if I'm not mistaken, but he will tell us, they want to go public next year. And that doesn't mean that we have to buy the shares at the time of the IPO because it is not a guaranteed advantage. But we are here today to understand the company better, to value the company and discuss how this will make how this will happen. So to get to know the project. Am I right?
That's right. That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm very happy that you are here and you want to talk about this company because I am interested. It is very, yeah, it's a very special company. Uh, could we start with the project and then we go deeper? But could you please introduce the project? What is the plan? What is the business model here?
Mhm. Yeah, I can do that. It's actually beyond just a single project. There is definitely a project of most interest to people. The project's called Cuddy Mountain. It's a porphyry copper project adjacent to the Hercules discovery last year, which many people are familiar with. The story of Scout is actually a bit longer than sort of that over the last year. We as a company, we built the team, the portfolio up over the last 6 years in Idaho. So prior to this, and Scout in a simple sense is a bet on Idaho as a jurisdiction. From a base and precious metals perspective, our view is it's the next up and coming jurisdiction in the US for mining. It certainly has a long history of mining, but it's been a bit off the radar for the last 20 years. So we came in 2017 and 2018 as part of EMX Royalty. So I was, part of that team. We built an office here where I'm based in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We started that in 2018, and just eyes wide open, we did a lot of very early stage work, and we generated a lot of projects, 16 in total, and the goal being looking for a meaningful discovery. It's really in the pre-discovery space. The last 6 years we did the generative work, we built the portfolio, and then Scout Discoveries came together because we realized the portfolio was at the drilling stage, which is when it becomes more investable as a company. That is the catalyst for a discovery. And so we at EMX decided that once we got to that stage, it was time to spin it off. We did that in 2023. It's a separate private US company as of now. We raised a fair bit of money last year, and we were fortunate in that there was a big discovery made right next door to one of our projects. That was Hercules. And, we were able to take that and really propel the story. I think it got Idaho on the map for a lot of people globally that maybe weren't looking at the jurisdiction. So it was a unique time and place for us to be positioned as, we're the largest mineral rights holder in the state of Idaho. Again, certainly Cuddy Mountain and Hercules, that district is the most interesting district right now. But we've spent a lot of time in basically every other district in the state at this time. So we're exposed to a large portfolio and advancing projects. We use the term tier one, which is basically a simple way of saying a meaningful discovery, something that a major would care about at the end of the day. And it's hard to find those. You need to approach that with a portfolio, and that is the business model that we employ is taking the portfolio approach, doing a lot of the work internally. We own two core drills of our own, so we do all our own drilling, cheaper that way. And the idea is to find something that's meaningful that a major would want to partner on and help us advance.
Okay. So, and I encourage the viewers to visit your website because your presentation is really nice. And we have only time today for the Cuddy Mountain,
Mhm.
but there are multiple projects. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I have to explain for the viewers that it is such a huge point, this Cuddy Mountain, because what Hercules Silver was it until recently. Now it's called Hercules Metals, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I want to try to say, I have to warm up. is that they started to drill this project last year, I think, and the results were known earlier this year, and they found part of a huge copper discovery, a huge copper system at the edge of this system, and it was much better than anyone would imagine. And
Yeah.
Barrick Gold would like it's a major, one of the largest company. They really need copper projects, as you just mentioned, and they immediately went there and bought part of the company because they just said, yeah, basically, tell me the price and I buy it, because it was such a nice move. So that's why it's important, this Cuddy Mountain, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's just to put it in context, the
Yeah, yeah.
Hercules discovery hole, and the story is very interesting in that it was Hercules silver to begin with. There is a shallow silver resource that's known, and that's what the company was founded on. It was sort of adjacent. Cuddy Mountain, our property, it's the known porphyry copper system in the district. And so then there was this other half of the district that was silver lead zinc mineralization. So Hercules silver was formed to really explore that silver mineralization, whereas we were focused on the copper starting in about 2021, 2022. At the time, none of the sort of major copper producers, we knew most of them at EMX, had relationships there, and nobody had Idaho on the map for a significant porphyry copper discovery because there aren't any. There's none otherwise in the state. And so it just wasn't a belt that many majors were interested in looking at. We spent a lot of time trying to entice a partner on Cuddy Mountain between 2021 and 2023. And then Hercules came in and they did strong technical work. They came in with just basic first principles of let's do systematic soil sampling, let's understand the property scale, and would have been early 2022 or I say early 2023. They put out their soil results, and I remember seeing them. There's significant copper in the eastern part of the property, enough that you should be interested to try to understand maybe what's underlying the silver mineralization. They did some geophysical surveys. There was a nice IP chargeability anomaly at depth. And, they took the shot and they drilled a deep hole. And the first hole drilled into what was and still is the best copper intercept in Idaho history. So it's very material from an Idaho standpoint. As well, I'm trying to think back in terms of what the last major porphyry copper discovery was in the US. But Hercules, it's probably the best proper new discovery of a porphyry system in the US in the last 15 years. So that's why Barrick moved so quickly, is it was the start of this new belt that, it had been explored in the 60s a little bit, but not much. And it hadn't been looked at with a modern lens. And Hercules really showed the grade potential there. They had, a nice 40-meter zone at almost 2% copper. That doesn't happen very often, especially on the first hole, drilling deep. So so I think that's why Barrick moved so quickly. And, there were certainly other groups that were interested in that belt as well. And, again, we were fortunate to be part of that. We believed in the belt or in that belt in that district, 3-4 years ago. And it took Hercules taking the shot on the drilling side to show the potential. And now we're in a position where Cuddy Mountain, the porphyry that exists on our grounds, it outcrops. We know that it's separate from Hercules. So it's looking like more of a porphyry cluster, which is really the holy grail from a mining perspective on, not knowing grades, tonnages, things like that. If you can find a number of porphyry systems clustered next to each other, these are the sort of long life mining operations that exist globally. It's very, very early days. We don't know, where this will lead, but we do know that there are separate porphyry centers now, some on our ground, some on Hercules as well. And that makes it a lot more appealing to majors.
Yeah. They had to go deeper, right, than earlier. And as far as I could understand from your presentation, if everything goes according to the plan, you don't have to drill so deep to find similar results. But yeah, of course, we will see. Okay, so and you are just next to this discovery, the Hercules discovery, and okay, and you mentioned the business model a bit, that if everything goes according to the plan, then you have a discovery, And then now the question is then how will this be mined? And then you want to make a joint venture, right?
Yep. So
Okay.
that's our business model in that, our team is finely tuned for early stage exploration work, up to
Okay.
say initial resource. We've sort of constructed our team around that skill set. Um, I'm sort of the belief that, sort of world-class explorers are a different camp than world-class miners. They're two different skill sets. Certainly
Yeah.
you can blend them and,
Yeah.
sort of walk up and down the scale in some ways, but I think if you're going to be the world's best on the discovery side, you should focus just on that. And so that's how we've constructed the Scout as a company and our team. And so with that, we're not the right team to build a tier one porphyry copper mine. There are much better groups out there than us for that. And as well on the permitting side in the US, it's a much higher likelihood of having social license if it's an experienced operator that's building it. I think that's really important that somebody who's going to build, a major mine, whether underground or surface, they should have some experience in doing that. And so that's kind of our view on Idaho in the long term, that we want to entice these groups to operate in the state. I lived here for quite a while. Our entire team is here and we believe in the state and, we want it to be done properly on the mining side. And, the Barricks, the Rio Tintos of the world, they do it right. And so those are the groups that you want here. As well, if we are successful in delineating something meaningful at Cuddy Mountain through drilling, ideally we would do the first phase or two of drilling. We're set up for that. And enticing one of these groups in kind of as on a joint venture along the way, we just think that's the right way to approach it because financing 50 to 100,000 meters of drilling, if not more, in a porphyry setting where you're often drilling 500 to 1,000 meter holes, that gets quite onerous for a junior to do on their own. You often want a partner to do that. That's sort of our view on it. It would be similar for the remainder of our portfolio as well. We're looking for big systems, big deposits, and you often need a partner to unlock those.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fine, and thank you for your honesty. I mean, there are different companies with different skill sets, and it's totally fine for me, I think. And yeah, the important thing is that everybody knows what to expect.
Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned that you have experience in that, so that I don't have to ask. What could be the value here? Are there similar projects that exist? I know, of course, the Hercules Metals share price skyrocketed after their discovery earlier this year.
Mhm.
Are there some projects that are similar that you can mention that, of course, it's not one-to-one comparison. Everything is different always, but what kind of value can we imagine? You used also tier one. Um,
Yeah, so I'll be speculating heavily
yes,
on that
that's
because it's
speculating. Yeah, okay.
it is really unknown at this point. I would say a tier one porphyry copper discovery in the US would be one of the biggest prizes you could possibly unlock.
Mhm.
It's a stable jurisdiction that many of the majors want to operate in. Um, and the infrastructure and access in Idaho is
It's
second
great.
to none. I mean, there's a hydroelectric dam within 10 miles of the property. So you have access to power, you have access to labor. You're not 4,000 meters in the Andes. So you're dealing with water challenges and, so it's a different sort of regime that you're operating in. It's hard to wrap numbers around it or really
Okay.
compare anything. There are not many districts like Cuddy Mountain and Hercules that are not owned by a major right now in the US. There certainly are some in Arizona. These would be held tightly within, some of the majors that operate there in terms of their exploration portfolios. But you know, yeah, I hesitate to point to, Philo mining recently, but that's the top of mind, the most recent tier one porphyry discovery. We can only hope to attain anywhere near the grades and tonnages there, but that's sort of a multi-billion dollar acquisition is sort of what you're looking at if you have success.
Yeah.
These are low odds of finding a tier one. Many porphyries don't necessarily get there, but the hurdle rate when it's road accessible with power is much lower than otherwise. So, we feel it's about as good of a prize as you can possibly get in exploration if you have some success. It's still quite early days, but it looks compelling. Hercules actually put out news this morning on their drilling, and
Mhm.
they're nice thick intervals of half percent to 1% copper. Still early days, but the district is it's advancing rapidly, and I would say it's one of the most exciting porphyry districts in the U.S. right now.
Yes, yes, I agree with you, and maybe it is also a good thing that you cannot mention or don't want to mention numbers because, yeah, uh, we will see. But the neighbors, of course, they had luck, so I wish you the best. And but maybe you can tell me is what is the liquidation value?
Of the company.
If you can, the company or just this project, um, it is difficult, but
Mhm.
or can we find it somewhere or
Yeah, that's a good question. So the company, we're valued at about a 30 million US market cap right now.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
private. So that's based on our previous fundraises. So that would be the company, which is 14 projects. Obviously we think there's more value in it than that with the portfolio that we have, Cutty Mountain in particular. Yeah, Hercules, roughly $100 million market cap company, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on the day. And that's a single asset, certainly a good discovery with nice intercepts. So we see strong upside to achieve, a good valuation there. In terms of how you value a project at pre-discovery levels, quite difficult from a liquidation perspective. Yeah, I actually don't know what you would sell Cutty Mountain for. Certainly depends on what somebody be willing to pay, but we wouldn't we wouldn't be interested in selling it before it were drilled. And
drilled?
drilling one or two material holes there has the ability to generate a lot of value there. So
Yeah, yeah,
I would say quite probably a bit too early to say much on the actual value of the project or the portfolio.
okay. That's important that you want to first drill it. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, it's part of the reason we're still private as
yeah,
well,
yeah. And
is
moving to the next steps then. So what is your plan for the near future? First, you want to drill?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
so the next steps for us, we have a large portfolio. We have two core drills internally, and we drilled quite a lot on the gold side of our portfolio this summer.
Mhm.
Those news should come out over the next couple of months as we get assays back. But we saw what we wanted to see in the rocks, which is we're testing scale of system at this point. Obviously looking for discoveries, but it takes a bit to get into them sometimes. So it's while we stay private, we want to advance our portfolio up to a stage that we have something to talk about in terms of a discovery. And so that is really how we're thinking about transitioning from private to going public. We're sort of under the impression now with Cutty Mountain that we'll look to drill it next summer. We're working through permitting right now. If that's successful, then we'll look to drill it with a phase 1 program targeting roughly 10,000 meters next summer into the fall. There's a lot of open questions between now and then, but that's sort of where we are with planning for the year. That will be our main focus. We'll probably look to put another 3 to 5,000 meters in on our gold projects as well, following up some of the results from this year. So next year, targeting roughly 15,000 meters of drilling would be a goal for us. That allows us to make decisions around moving towards public. We're not really committing to
Okay.
anything now. There's certainly been some speculation out there that we would go public in 2025. It's a hard question to answer because the market is, right now it's an election in the US. There's a lot of instability around that. This is not the time that you want to be doing a primary U.S. listing, which is our main focus, is listing either on the NYSE American or the NASDAQ. And so it's a question of timing from an asset perspective, as well as the macro environment, sort of what precious and base metals look like at a high level is when we'll look to make that decision. But it's too early for us to decide right now whether we're going to do it. But it is a short to midterm goal for us is to move that direction.
Okay, okay, okay. I heard next year, but I'm happy that you mentioned, and also you don't know exactly what exchange. You don't know that yet. Okay.
Nope,
And
not yet.
my next questions are that what are the unanswered questions, and what are the catalysts? Would you like to add anything else, or you just mentioned you want to drill? and next year.
Yeah, no, I think we covered the bases on the project.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. And
Yeah,
if
and I guess to answer your questions on what are the unanswered questions at Cutty Mountain, it is a question of drilling at this point. We've
yeah,
done everything you can do at the surface, and it looks quite compelling. Geochemically, geophysically, the surface sampling work, because it is an outcropping target, we have strong confidence that there's multiple porphyry centers on our property. Now it's a
mhm,
question of do those continue to depth, and we're looking at what are the grades, and how does the system or systems fit together in that third dimension? And so that is the key unanswered question for next year. We know one of the porphyry centers has strong intercepts, 177 meters at 0.35 copper, with 40 meters at about 0.8 in there. Those need to be validated. Those were 1960s era drilling, so we need to validate that. As well as assay for co-products, molybdenum, silver, gold, which we know are present at surface. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and they're all in the third dimension, I'd say. We've done everything we can do with the surface outcroppings.
yeah, it looks promising. And of course, I don't have to ask, but probably you have the money for this until next year at least. And when you go public, we can speculate. Let's say that we can speculate that when you go public, what would you like to do with that money, what you raise in this
Mhm.
round?
Good question. Yeah, we should be well financed for next year.
Hmm.
And beyond that, on the go public side, it will depend a lot on how the 2025 season goes, I would say. There's a scenario where we have a lot of success at Cuddy Mountain. We may elect to do a much larger second program there before bringing in a partner, although that may be the right time to bring in a partner there.
Hmm.
And so it is a bit unknown sort of looking that far into the future. But any sort of go public raise would be likely tied to an advanced stage program, either at Cuddy Mountain or one of our other gold projects if we don't have success at Cuddy Mountain.
Okay, okay. Yeah, nice. If did I mention that people should check your presentation because it contains a lot of
Yeah.
information? And how can I follow the company? Is there a newsletter?
There is,
Yes.
yep. So
Okay.
we it's just a mailing list. So we try to update shareholders pretty regularly. We sort of operate as if we're public in a lot of ways in terms of putting out news releases and making sure the work that we do gets spread out there. So we'll continue to do that. The best way to do it for anyone listening is just go to our website and sign up for the mailing list. That will guarantee that you get every news that comes from us. Otherwise, you can probably find my email on the presentation. Feel free to reach out if there's any questions. Happy to discuss further.
I will put the links below down there. And uh, may we talk about your motivation? Do you have skin in the game? How
Mhm.
will you profit from this work?
Yes, I do own about 5% of the company personally.
Mhm.
I've participated in every financing to date. I don't do any investing outside of Scout. All of my
Mhm.
funds are in the company. I've focused on Idaho for 6 years, and I've spent about 10 years trying to build this company. It's a very long story, but it's taken us many years to get here from the earliest days of grassroots work and I'm about as committed as somebody could get to advancing the portfolio, both financially incentivized as well as this is what I've spent a lot of time doing, and I want to see it through. I think there's a real shot that we do find something of tier one scale, and we'll keep doing the work until we get there.
That's nice. That's nice. Also, my motivation is to get to know you better, practice this valuation. It is my first time that I talk with really pre-IPO
Mm.
CEO, so I'm quite. But the project is exciting, so it looks nice. And yeah, later rounds. I think that will come later. So I think we discussed that. One more question: what could go wrong
Mm. Great question.
beside
I
the
think it's all
obvious?
around the drill. Yeah, it's all around the drilling side. We could certainly come in and drill some holes and show that mineralization at surface doesn't continue to depth. That is, it's sort of these unanswered questions. We could maybe answer them with a no. And that's the reason we have a portfolio, is that is usually what happens in exploration. If you're being realistic and practical about it, you do the work, and most projects do not get better. And to get the 16 that we have now, we've worked on over 100 project areas, and they all looked compelling at the beginning. But you just do the next stages of work, and you let the best projects rise to the top. Cuddy Mountain is now risen to the top as the best project in our portfolio. A year ago or a year and a half ago, it was our 11th ranked project. So we try not to hang our hats too much on the ranking. We just do the work, let the data drive the decision making, and really approach it with exactly the question you asked: is what are the unanswered questions? We have a very strict decision framework in mind for these projects. When we do, let's say we do a first phase of drilling, there are certain things that we need to see to continue. Sometimes it's ambiguous, but often you can structure answers that you need to get to continue doing work. And so Cuddy Mountain, it is showing the scale continues in that third dimension are the key questions there, and being able to repeat the historic intercepts. So if we can't do that, I would say things have gone wrong at Cuddy Mountain, and we'll have to focus on some of our other projects.
Yeah, that's also important, to cut your losses early and move on, because why burn more money?
Yeah,
Okay.
discovery is a game of low odds, so you have to be realistic about it.
Yeah. And it's a high risk game. Okay, thank you very much. I think I wish you, and I think all of our viewers are wishing you a lot of success. So thank you for the time you spent with us. And
yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Peter.